जय हिंद। आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। Since board exams are around the corner and what I have experienced as being a teacher of English is that students do not study English throughout the session, and it is only during the examination that they study English. Otherwise, they keep themselves busy in their main subjects of commerce, science and humanity. And for this, I cannot blame students because this is the mindset of students across the country, that they study English only during the examination time. And they have just one demand: please tell us the story, please tell us the summary, please teach us English. So yes, I am standing with you, I am there to help you, and for this reason today I am going to introduce the first book, FLAMINGO, and all its chapter. I will explain very briefly all the chapters, some important aspects, the themes and the characters I would be discussing today, and then I would take the chapter individually in my coming videos. So the book is FLAMINGO, and the first chapter is The Last Lesson by Alphonse Daudet. What a chapter, what a story to start an important board class of class 12th. The Last Lesson. Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet was a French writer, and the story is about France, its culture and French language. The story is set in the years of Franco-Prussian War that was fought during 1870 and 71. In the war, France lost the battle at the hand of Prussians, and Prussian forces occupied the territories, the countries, states and districts of France. The theme of the story is it is realization on the part of French people that opportunities should not be taken for granted. When we have time, we must act. Otherwise, when the opportunity is lost, we regret. This is not only limited for that period in French people, it is a common phenomenon, universal phenomenon, and all of us somewhere we succumb to this process of procrastination, putting off our work till tomorrow for the future course of action. So there is a quote that we should never put off until tomorrow what we can do today. The other theme of the chapter is the implications of language chauvinism. Since France lost the battle, so Prussians were going to impose the learning of German, replacing French language. That's the story. In the story, we find there are only two main characters. One is Franz, a student, 14 years old student, and he is also the narrator of the story. As a student, he is very casual, he is very careless, not so sincere, not doing his work, not learning things properly, particularly his French language, and he did not like his teacher either. His teacher M. Hamel, a French teacher, a very dedicated professional teacher, and he was very strict. When a student failed to do the work, so students were punished. For that reason, Franz did not like him. The story is about set in a school where we see that Franz starts for the school, but he thinks of staying away from the school because he had not done his work. But then he changes his mind and then he went to school. Going to school, he finds on that day there were so many changes. His behavior, the behavior of the teacher was different. He got dressed up in different way, and the back benches of the classrooms were occupied by the villagers. It was only because it was the last day of the teaching of French. So you read and find out that was there any change in the attitude of Franz for his teacher, for his subject, and how did M. Hamel, the French teacher, emotionally reacted on the last day. That was the first chapter. The second chapter we have called The Lost Spring. Lost Spring, written by Annis Jung. So it is a kind of biography of the people. The story Lost Spring, let us discuss about the title. Spring is the best season of all the season, and childhood is the best part of a human's life. The story talks about two young children, Sahibe Alam and Mukesh, who have lost their childhood. That means they have lost the spring part of the season. The first story is Sometime I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. It is about the rag pickers of Simapuri. There were some 10,000 rag pickers who migrated from Bangladesh and got settled there. Since they did not have much education and they were not skilled, so finding no other way, they took up the rag picking as their profession. Rag picking, rags had different meaning for the elderly people and for the young children. For the elderly people, it was a means of survival. For the young people, it was a fun. Now, Sahib Alam, the main character of this story, rag picker, there is an irony in his name. Sahib Alam means the Lord of the universe, but he doesn't have a pair of shoes in his feet. But sometime he hopes to find a rupee in the garbage, and he joins other boys of the rag picking community and goes on finding the rags. Towards the end of the story, we find that he changes his job. He takes up a job at a tea stall, and there he is paid rupees 800 with food, but he is not happy even after getting paid 800 rupees, because he had lost his freedom. When he used to go for the rag picking, he was his own master. He could go anywhere, he could go to rag picking anytime. And here at the tea stall, the cattle which he is carrying, and he is serving the tea to the people. So, this cattle appeared to him heavier than the rag picking bag. The second story of Lost Spring is I Want to Drive a Car. This is about the people of bangle makers of Firozabad. Firozabad is the city which manufactures the bangles utilized and used by the people all over India. The story, it says about the rag pickers community. Rag pickers community people born, they work in a very tough and hazardous condition. They lose their eyesight, they lose their health, and they die immature death. So, there is irony that bangle stands as a symbol of long married life, but then the women of this community, they become widow at a tender age because they lose their husbands. Their husbands die working in that hazardous condition. Mukesh is one such from family, but towards the end of the story, and all those people who are born into the family of bangle makers, they have to take up the same job of bangle making, because they think that this is the job God has fixed for them. God has decided they cannot choose any other job. But towards the end of the story, we find Mukesh tries to take up a different job. He wants to become a mechanic, and that is how the name of the chapter is I Want to Drive a Car. But even on the path of becoming a mechanic, he has to face a lot of challenges, because the place where he would learn mechanic, he would become a mechanic. So, the place was very far off and there were very few transports from his place, but he dares to do something going out of his family profession. So, that was the second chapter, Lost Spring. The third chapter is Deep Water by William Douglas. It is an autobiography of William Douglas himself. The chapter talks about the childhood fear of William Douglas of water. There were two incidents happened with William Douglas which had almost terrorized him, and he was so much scared that even he did not want to take the name of water. With the name of water, he used to get highly scared. He was that much scared. How it happened? What was that incident? As a child, when he was very young, so his father took him to California beach. They were standing on the beach and the wave came and knocked him down. Now, the water overflowed over his head. So, he was highly terrified, but since he was with his father, so for his father it was a very funny incident, but for that child who was very young, it was a terrifying experience. Now, the other incident, what happened and when it happened? So, the other incident happened as it was when he thought of coming out of the fear of his water, and then he decided that he would learn swimming, and for that there was YMCA swimming pool adjacent to his house, close to his house. So he joined the swimming pool, and he had hardly went over there for 2 to 3 days, and then one fine day what happened, that misadventure happened. He went there quite early on that day, and he was just there were nobody around, and then a very hefty and tall boy came. He picked him up and threw him into the deeper part of the water. So it was almost a death experience, near death experience, but somehow he survived. And then the rest of the story is that how did he finally conquer his fear of water, and he hired a trainer, he hired a trainer instructor, and then the entire story talks about that how by doing a rigorous practice, by mastering all the skills of the swimming, and finally he became a successful swimmer. The most important line of this chapter is, all we have to fear is fear itself, said by American President Roosevelt, and William Douglas was a legal advisor of Roosevelt. In the order, the fourth chapter we have Rat Trap by Selma Lazaroff. Rat Trap, a beautiful philosophical chapter. The chapter is about a rat trap seller, a tramp, a vagabond who did not have a permanent house. This rat trap seller used to make rat traps by different things, collecting things from here and there. He used to make rat traps, and then he used to sell out the rat traps. And but that business was not that profitable. It was not that profitable, and that's why to keep himself alive, sometime he had to commit some small theft also. Now, before I go more into this, let us understand how a rat trap works, functions. So, rat trap is a four-sided structure, it is a cubical structure, and one way is open, and inside it something is placed to attract the mouse or mice, bread, chapati or something, and it is placed in the area where there is a lot of movements of mouse and mice. And the moment a mouse finds something hanging in the air, he comes to takes it, and the moment he touches the bed, he is trapped. So that is how the rat trap functions. Now this rat trap seller, who is an illiterate person, who does not have any kind of literacy, during the wandering of his rat trap selling, there strikes a beautiful idea, notion in his mind. He starts thinking that the entire world is nothing but a big rat trap. The entire world, tempts you and wants to trap you by offering you wealth, name and fame and a lot of riches by some wrong means. See, there is nothing wrong in making money and making name and earning name and fame, but there is a way for it. You cannot go out doing some wrong things and earning money. If you do it, you will get caught in the rat trap. That is the theme. Now this rat trap seller, since he is a vagabond, he does not have a fixed house. So during his wandering, often he used to seek shelter at somebody's house, and that is how he spent his nights. So during one of his wanderings, he just asked for a night shelter, and most of the time he was rejected, but on that day he was accepted. He was welcomed by an old man, Crofner. Crofner took him inside, welcomed him, shared his all personal experience and some secrets, and offered him food and showed him some money which 30 kroners which he had saved also. But the next day, since he was a kind of small thief, so he took away the money and went further. Then again he was lost. He understood that the entire world is a trap, and since he took the money, so he would be trapped. He kept wandering through a forest, he could not find his way, and then finally took a shelter and a factory. The owner of the factory comes to the factory for the night inspections. Then when he comes, he finds this man, and he takes this man as a close friend, as a comrade of him. But since he was not a friend, but he did not disclose that he was not a friend, because he was looking for some charity. And then his owner's daughter comes and takes him takes him to their house and welcomes him for the Christmas. Now the interesting thing is there, so this rat rhapsody finally, did he steal the things from the owner's house and goes away, or did he really reformed himself, because he was warmly welcomed, and even after his actual identity getting revealed, he was allowed a stay there. So that's something very interesting. That was the 4th chapter. The 5th chapter in the order is Indigo by Louis Fisher. Indigo is a biography by Louis Fisher. It's about Mahatma Gandhi. It's about the story set during the time when Mahatma Gandhi came to India, and he started his political things. He started his political careers in India just after coming to this. It's not that Gandhiji had an opinion that he wanted to study the whole of India, and then only he wanted to get into the Indian politics. So that was the time around some 1917. The story talks about the Champaran and the sharecroppers and the indigo problem. Before I go further into the story, let us understand what was the understanding, what was the problem of the Champaran people. And there is one character, Rajkumar Shukla. He is the main character, so we would also discuss about him. First, let us understand, let us see that what was the process, what was the understanding, what was the agreement, what was the pact following which the agriculture was done. So in Champaran, in Motihari, the entire agricultural land was owned by British landlords, and Indian farmers were they were sharecroppers. They used to do the farming on the land with an agreement on that on the 3/20th part of the land they had to grow indigo, and the rest of the part of the land they could grow the crop of their choice, and that on 3/20th they had to grow indigo, and they had to surrender the crop to the British landlord as an agreement. This was the long standing agreement, and following this the sharecroppers they had been doing the agriculture. But when Britishers realized that German people invented synthetic indigo, they stopped taking this natural indigo, and they asked the sharecroppers that the sharecroppers could grow crop of their choice on the entire land, but since they exempted them of growing indigo, so they asked for some heavy amount of money. So most of the farmers they gave, and some of them they protested. So the Britishers they got some people and got them beaten also. But after some time their sharecroppers came to know that it only happened because of the synthetic indigo invented by the German people, and then they started asking their money back. So that's the story. So Rajkumar Shukla was also one such sharecropper. He was illiterate, but he was resolute. He had lot of tenacity. Somebody told him that Gandhiji could help you in this respect. So he came to Lucknow. That time Gandhiji was attending a conference of National Indian Congress. He met Gandhiji and requested Gandhiji to come and settle their problem. So that is how Gandhiji came to Champaran. That was in the beginning of his political career. Gandhiji came and settled their problem. There is a lot many stories, since today is the introductory part. And when this indigo problem was settled, so Gandhiji was never satisfied only with solving the political problem. Gandhiji was always concerned with the social problem, economical problem. So Gandhiji went ahead and started looking into the health, the education and sanitation of the people of Champaran. So that was the story Indigo. The 6th chapter in this order is Poet and Pancakes by Ashoka Mitran. Now Poet and Pancakes sounds something like it's a bakery product, but no, it's not any kind of bakery product. The chapter talks about the Gemini Studio. Gemini Studio, in our country there are so many film producing houses, production house. So Gemini Studio was also one such house, based not from Mumbai or Bombay. It was a Chennai based production house. Just post independence era in 60s and 50s, the story is like that. Ashoka Mitran, when he was in his service period, he worked for the Gemini Studio, and when he got retired, he thought of writing his experience working with the Gemini Studio, and that is how he wrote a book My Years with the Boss, and this chapter is a part of that. So, let us talk about Poets and Pancake. Pancake, what was Pancake? Pancake was a famous makeup brand material that was applied to the actor and actresses. All we know that in a filmmaking, the actor and actresses, they have to look more attractive, and that is how they had to go under the process of makeup. Makeups are applied on them. So, this makeup Pancake was so much famous that it used to come in the Gemini studio, in trucks of this product used to come, and few name of the actresses are given who were applied this makeup. Miss Greta Garbo, Miss Gohar, and Vajanti Mala, these are the names given. And let us talk about this makeup department, how the makeup department looked and what all went on in the process of makeup department. So, in the makeup department, where there is at present the makeup department of Gemini Studio, that place was once there. The horses of Robert Clive, the governor of India, his horses were kept, and now that place got converted in the makeup department of Gemini Studio. The makeup department, in that room there was a chair in the center, and the people had to sit who was supposed to get applied the makeup, and the room was fitted from all around the light of high heat, and sitting there was really a torturous experience. And it is also said that that is expected that when the makeup was applied they would look more attractive, but no, on the contrary, they became more horrible, they looked more horrible. So, that is the irony on it. And it is not that same person applied the makeup to all the people of the movies, main actor and actresses, supporting actors, they are the different actors in the rank wise. So, there was chief makeup man who applied makeup to the main actor and actresses, then there were some subordinate people, juniors people who applied the makeup to the supporting actors. And if makeup had to be applied to the crowd, so how the makeup was applied to the crowd and who applied the makeup to the crowd. So, in the film studio there was a boy called office boy. In fact, he was not a boy, he was a man. But when he joined the Gemini studio, he joined with the hope that one day he would become, he would rise in the rank of the filmmaking, but it never happened, and all his life he remained a boy only. Now, how he applied makeup to the crowd? So, he made the crowd stand before him, and he put a lot of makeup material in a bucket, and with a big brush he used to apply the makeup on their faces. That is how he applied makeup to those people. Now, so this was the makeup man, and he took one person, he considered one person, blamed one person for his not rising in the rank of filmmaking. That was Subbu Babu. Subbu Babu in rank, he was number 2 in film in the Gemini studio in rank, next to the owner. The owner of the name was S.S. Vasan. Subbu Babu was talented, highly educated, and extremely talented. He could act, he could direct, he could write lyrics. So, genuinely he was a worthy person, but it was all the grudges of the office boy that because of this Subbu Babu, he could not rise the rank. And what was the work of Ashoka Mitran? Ashoka Mitran's work was very simple, that he had to read the newspaper, and all he had to store and cut all the important articles that appeared in the newspaper in a file. So, that was his work. And all other people in the Gemini studio, they considered that Ashoka Mitran did nothing of quite nothing significant. His work was very useless, and this office boy often used to go to him and often talk to him and say that what you are doing, it is not a significant work. So, Ashoka Mitran always prayed that there is a crowd shooting so that he would be remain engaged. That is the story. In the story there is another part, that two visitors come to the story. So, there is something about communalism. So, two visitors come, MRA, Model Rearmament Group. They were the group of 200 people, they were moving around the world, and they were they had their shoes. So, this Model Rearmament unit, there were people of 200 people, they came to Gemini studio, and they had to place Jonathan Factor and Forgotten Factor and Jonathan Valley. So, they were moving around the world and they were having their shows. Actually, they were for that I would not say. I want you to read out the chapter, and since today is the introductory class, I will be coming in more details in the next videos. And there is one more, and that was the time when the shooting of the movie was shot. 99% of the part of the movie was shot within the studio, indoor shootings. And then there more came one British poet, Stephen Spender. Since the owner of the Gemini studio, S.S. Watson, was fond of English, so he became a host and he welcomed Stephen. But when Stephen came and gave his lecture and his speech, none of the people could understand, because he was a native English people. He had a very high accent, and during those years 60s, who knew English? So that's the story, Poet and Pancakes. The next in the order, we have the chapter called Interview. Interview by Christopher Sylvester. This chapter also has got two parts. One part, first part, we have a general discussions about interview. What did people think about interview? What is interview? What is its significance? How important it is a part of as a journalism? And what different people, important people think about interview? What was their opinions? Mainly the best writers of the world. So the chapter Interview is, it has got the collection of interviews from 1857 till now, an anthology of interview published book in the Penguin. So the first chapter talks about that today all the informations we have with us, it comes from some kind of interview one person has taken from one person to another person, and it is just a kind of interview. So interview is really so important, and all those people who are literate today, who are educated, they have read some interview somewhere. It says that the name of list of the people, Rudyard Kipling and Lewis Carroll, and lot many people, 7-8 writers name are given, and most of them they are against giving interview, because it was an opinion long back that even people did not allow themselves to get photo clicked. They did not allow themselves to be photographed, because they knew that while in the process of getting clicked, a part of the personality is carried away, stolen, is taken away. The same concept was applied in interview also. People did not allow, did not easily get convinced to give interview, because they know that their privacy, their personal life is revealed, and maybe in the course of giving interview they would say something which would be recorded permanently, and at any time anything could happen for that reason. So this is all about the first chapter, first part of interview. The second part of the interview is a real interview by Mukund Padmavan, the editor of Hindu newspaper, and the interviewee is Umberto Eco, the famous academician, professor of Italy College, and the writer of the name of the rose, the writer of the novel The Name of the Rose. This is the real interview. A train is passing. Real interview, who is taking interview? The man who is taking the interviewer is Mukund Padmavan, the editor of the newspaper The Hindu. And who is the interviewee? Umberto Eco. He was basically a professor, academician, teaching in college of University of Bologna, Italy, and people have the kind of opinion and ideas that since he was a professor, and he says that he was a professor who writes on Sunday. And then he was asked that how does he manage to do so many things at a time. Then he said, no, it appears that I am doing so many things at a time, but I am doing the same thing. And when he is asked the question, this chapter is one of the finest example of time management, finest example of for those people who complain a lot that they don't have enough time to execute their actions. So Umberto Eco says that in the entire universe, in our life, in everybody's life, there is a lot of empty space, there is a lot of vacuum. If we can utilize those vacuum now, we will never complain of not having enough time. He also said that the entire universe, the entire universe has lot of empty spaces, and if we take out the empty space, we can hold the entire universe in our grip, in our fist. This is said. Sounds very funny, but it's true. And then finally, we come to know, and he says that calls this vacuum of time, which is space is available in our life between two actions, called interstices. He said that one should utilize the interstices, and if one starts utilizing the interstices from the life, one would never complain of not having enough time to meet to carry out their day-to-day work life. He said, suppose I am having a visitor at my home, some person is coming. So, by the time he would come from entering my campus till my door, getting from the stairs or coming from the elevators, I would do something. Those 3 to 4 minutes I would realize. And finally, then there is a discussion. He was a doctorate, he has done dissertation paper. All we know that when somebody has to do PhD, one has to write the thesis paper, doctorate dissertations. So, he had a very unique way of writing his paper. Generally people finally they commit a lot of trial and hit method, and finally they write the conclusion, but this Umberto Eco, he put his entire thing, his entire trial and error method which he applied during writing his dissertations, he wrote it. That is why his writing skill was very unique. At last when he was asked question that what was the reason, what do you think that why his book The Name of the Rose got such a bestseller and it were millions and millions of copies were sold, because initially when the publisher published just very limited number of books, but then it was the bestseller. So, Umberto Eco did not have any particular answer for the success of his book. He says that it is a miracle, it is a mystery for me. Even I cannot claim that it became, because the subject on which that book was written, it was a hard reading. It was about metaphysics, it was about theology. It was not very interesting, it was a hard reading. It was written on a difficult topic, difficult theme, and that he attributes that it could be the reason for its success. And further he says that there is another reason for the success of the book was the timing. It was, if it had been published 10 years back or 10 years ahead, it would not have become that famous as it was. So, that was all about the book, the chapter interview. The last chapter from this book, Flamingo, we have is Going Places by A.R. Barton. Going Places is about fantasizing, Going Places is about idol worship, it is about teenagers, it about those people, those young people, those teenagers, those young girls and boys who are born in a middle class family where the resources are very limited, and hence they cannot meet, they cannot fulfill all their wishes in real life. Hence they starts creating, making an alternative world, a virtual world, and they live in it. That is the story. So, in the story there are two characters, one is Jancy and one is Sophie. They are the teenager young girls. Jancy is very practical, but Sophie, who is the main character of the story, she does a lot of fantasizing, she does the hero worship, she fantasizes a lot. They are not highly qualified, nor do they have any good skill. So, they all were expected to get a job, they were entitled to get a job in a biscuit factory, very normal work. But this Sophie, since she is a fantasizing girl, she fantasizes, sometimes she fantasizes that she would become an actress, she would become a manager, she would have the best boutique of her of her town. This she lots fantasizes. Let us talk about her family members. Her family members got from very middle class family. Father is a laborer and mother, there is mother, she is all the time hard working for it, an elder brother called Geoff and called a younger brother. She does a lot of fantasizing, and she has an elder brother Geoff, and elder brother, if we talk about, he is very reserved, does not talk much, and Sophie feels very jealous, and because that she wants to know that what all goes into the mind of his brother, which he never talks about. One day Sophie comes and says to Geoff that, do you know, today I have met Danny Casey. Who is Danny Casey? Danny Casey is a star football player, Irish football player like Messi and Ronaldo. So, anybody would disbelieve. So, Geoff, he was not approved, he was not convinced, and then Sophie started giving a real life account, you know, he was just standing next to me, he looked this, his eyes are like this, he speak like this, just to make him believe that really she saw him. But in reality, Sophie has never seen Danny Casey. Yes, the entire family was a big fan of Danny Casey, and once the entire family went to see a match where Danny Casey played a match, and his team won the match. So they all enjoyed their trip. Now Sophie did not stop here. Sophie fantasizes further. She fantasizes in her mind that she would go on a date with Danny Cassie by the canal side, and even she goes there. She waits for Danny Cassie to come, but somewhere deep down in her heart she knew that nobody would come. So that's the story. Today I have just introduced Flamingo book with all their 8 chapters. And at last I would add one line, quite often when people know that I teach English, so they come to know for getting tips, for asking that how they can improve their communication level. So all I have to say, you start speaking and start reading. Reading is missing from people's life. So start reading books, stories, and then you would see that you would be a good communicator. So in the coming videos, I'll be making all the chapter wise. Let me know in the comment box, was it really helpful to you? And what did you like about my narrating, my introducing the book Flamingo for class 12th. Jai Hind.